Hey guys, so today's project involves my 1962 Chevy truck. I guess technically it's a C-10. So I've had this for, I don't know, like 18 years. And someday I'd like to preserve it completely and repaint it back to original specs. But in order to preserve it, it was starting to rust and have actually body work. I put rocker panels, cap corners, half a bedside, fender, part of a floor. But anyway, to preserve it until I can paint it the right way, I did this faux patina paint job. The hood kind of looked like that already, so I just sanded it, put a little brown on it, a little green, cleared it, did some stuff to the other parts of it. This fender was an eBay find, so it was different color. The tailgate was the same way. So I kind of blended it all together and did this to it to keep it where I could drive it and not do further damage until I can take the time and do it right. So I put all the trim back on this side. It's not the greatest. I put it on not to lose it or damage it. This side I have not put back on, so it's painted. I just need to get the trim cleaned up and put it back on so I don't damage or lose any more of it. So let's go in the garage and see if we can find it all. So I'm pretty much just putting it back on just to store it and keep, you know, stuff like this from happening where it's been leaned up in a corner. But I have located, I believe, all my pieces. And since one of the fenders was gone and, well, was really badly rusted, I got a used one on eBay. So I end up with two of the front pieces. So I have the option for the fender of one or the other, but they're kind of dinged up and dented. So I want to polish them up a little bit to preserve them, and since the truck, actually people kind of like that look, I wanted to at least polish up the trim somewhat. So from the factory, this is anodized aluminum, and if you try to polish it, nothing happens. It's like polishing this countertop. It doesn't shine up at all. So I did some research online and found out that you need to get the anodizing off before you can polish it. So what I did is used like Drano crystals, and I bought an 8-foot piece of gutter, plastic gutter from Lowe's or wherever, and put the end caps on it and put it down in there and poured the Drano crystals in there, added water, and then put the trim in and let it percolate for a couple minutes, and then scrubbed it with a Scotch-Brite, and it took that anodizing right off. So now we will be able to go back and polish this stuff. But some of them will take a manageable piece, have some dents and dings in them, so I've been trying to at least get some of them out. So we'll start with that. Okay, so I did a little trial run on my front spears, and they both turned out about the same, so we'll decide what we'll use later. Now, next is the fender piece, and apparently the one that's on the truck now must have come from the used fender, because both of these on my truck were riveted at the back, which I don't believe is correct. So I just need to choose which one I'm going to use, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these to work and try to weld that rivet hole up. This stuff is like paper thin, so that may be a disaster, so I'll try on one. But anyway, let's go through and polish this thing up. So it has a dent right there. Years ago when I ordered stuff from Eastwood, they had an offer where you get a free little trim anvil and hammer. So I took them up on that because it was free. And apparently you can use this to fix these dents. I haven't had too much luck with it. You can't make it perfect, but you can. Again, probably with a lot of practice, you could really flatten them out. This piece actually looks pretty good. So what I've done, I find works, I've had the most luck with, regular corded drill, so you can get some speed out of it. And I got a polishing kit that had like little blocks of rouge. I think I got this from Harbor Freight, but I'm not positive. Burn some rouge into it. This trim is so thin and flimsy, you're gonna wanna support it with something. So here goes. So it works pretty well. This thing's a little pitted, but that's a start. So it's coming back to me. Thinking I use this clamp to hold it down. That way I have a little more control over the drill, because it wants to roll off. So let's try that. Now, what I've also found is when it's clamped, when you come to an end, if you go as the same direction, like I'm running clockwise, that thing's going to roll over and bite into that, and it's going to shoot your thing off, shoot your buff off, and possibly shoot the piece out of here. So I've actually reversed directions, so you're coming over this way and it won't grab it. Now the risk you run is it unscrews the buff, so you just have to be careful. Turns out reasonably well. And I'm pretty sure what I did before is switched to a different little buffing pad, and this one kept wanting to slip off, so I applied some electrical tape so it wouldn't scar up the piece if it came off, because it's so much smaller. When they get dirty or glazed, you can take a screwdriver and clean them. They make a tool for that, and this works well enough. So then I used some of this metal polishing cream. Just dab a little bit in there, maybe not that much, because it is going to sling this stuff everywhere. So I do have safety glasses on and the gloves, just because your hands are going to be black if you don't. Doesn't look half bad compared to that. So I will continue and work on the rest of it. So I took both of these fender pieces to work and welded up the hole. So let's see if we can do anything with it now. As I said, this stuff is like paper thin. And based on what equipment I have there, I probably couldn't turn it down well enough to just like flow it in, so I had to put some backing behind it and glob it in there. So let's see if we can fix it. I'm gonna start with a file. I know you're not supposed to use your file on aluminum, but that's what I have. I don't know any other way. Let's try this piece. Of course, some of it started blowing holes in it, so I had to kind of get a little more aggressive. But let's see if we can file this flat. Okay, so I filed on this and beat on it, and that's what I ended up with. It's getting close. So I thought I'd bring you in and see what we can do with the sanding block. I think this is 400. see if we can flatten that out the rest of the way. So the hole's about right there. You can't even see that. All you can see is that dent. So maybe we can knock that dent out a little bit. Kind of right in there-ish. You know what, for the scope of this project, let's polish that up and see what it looks like. So you really can't even tell where the hole was. You can see the rest of the dents and dings, but as we said, we're just putting this back on to kind of keep it all in one place. I'm sure someday I'll end up buying all the new stuff, but for now we'll continue on and get this stuff polished up and probably bring it back when we're putting it back on the truck. So this is the remnants of the trim clip. I had a set for the whole truck. Of course, one side's already on. So, long piece. I don't believe there's a front or a back. Yeah, it's pretty much treated the same on both ends. So, this originally had metal clips. New ones are plastic. So, this piece actually goes in. Let me see if I can remember how this works. There we go, that's how it goes. The profile kind of fills in the inside of the trim, if that makes sense, and supports it. So it stands pretty much just like that. So I think what I did before is I took a pencil and I held the trim up and I marked where all the clips go, because once you get them in, you can't slide them. It's a weekend in North Carolina, so of course it rained yesterday and thwarted all my activity. The best way to line this up, in my opinion, is tape the trim, line it up on the ends where you want it, and I've made a little mark right at the top because once you get the clip in there, you cover up the mark on the wide part. So I've marked all of them. We'll pull it off and get those clips put in. The smaller trim has these little wire clips. There's a cutout, a little relief in the side, and you slide them in. So I'm not going to bother marking these. We'll just get them in approximate position because they move a little easier, and then we'll get them popped on. So this door piece can only go on one way. I think that way is going to be the best. As I recall, this is really a pain. Let's try this. They're in there, but it seems like I had to clip these little legs off on the other side too. That's a little loose. It fits a little tighter now. I'm going to spread these out a little bit to take up some of that gap in the hole there. Much better. So the front fender piece anyways held on with these metal clips with the speed nut on them. They pretty much go in the same way as the plastic ones. I'm just doing it like this because there's only 4 of them to put in. So that piece slides in. It's going to line up the hole. And then this little like kickstand holds it in there tight. And I figured out why the front one, the back of the front fender trim on each one was riveted on, because I had to take this cowl panel off and loosen this fender to be able to get up in there to get the old clip off, because the old clip was still on there. So I bet back in the day someone didn't want to bother with that, so they just riveted the last one on because you can barely reach it. All right, and speed nuts, take a 3/8 wrench. For the side trim, uses these plastic pieces, and I'm too short. I went to the auto parts store and found these GM molding retainers. They look to be only close. It sits out a little too much, so I sanded some of this down, and it looks like it'll just pop in there. Say that. So there's my line. I have intermingled the oddball clips, so the fact the right ones can kind of help hold everything on. So that one doesn't look quite right. Guess it's in there. A key problem area is right there. Let's make sure that clears the fender. Yeah, just barely. That's why that's all bent up. But I think I will shim this fender out a little bit and that should solve that. I got to bolt it back on anyway. So as a final step, I have some shark's hide protectant. This is not the original container, but I did this to the other side. After I did a final polish, I just wiped this on the surface. And so far, it seems like it has kept it from oxidizing. All right, so now both sides match. Thanks for watching. Hold on, I'd like to do a quick public service announcement and introduce you to my arch enemy, poison ivy, poison oak. Not really sure the difference, don't really care, but this stuff eats me up. I think I've been to the doctor 4 times since I've lived in North Carolina to get treated for this. Leaves of 3, kind of looks like a hand with a thumb. The stalks can get like furry, hairy looking stuff on it. Yeah, some people say they're immune. I'm not. Anyway, this stuff's getting ready to drink the Kool-Aid. Just thought I'd share that with you, what to look for. Thanks.